Hello, happy Wednesday. We are happy to be back doing another Facebook Live video for you today talking about flower bulbs. It's been a little bit over a month since we've been here, taking a little break in summer. You know, that's kind of our slow time. The last video we did about was spray painting allium bulbs, and we have a new blog post on that on our website. So if that is something you're interested in doing next summer, you want to plant those allium bulbs this fall, so I would check out that blog post. It's a super fun craft project, or really great way to decorate on a budget. So happy to be back, and happy that it's a nice day here in August. Summer is unfortunately for a lot of people coming to an end in the next couple weeks. Some kids may already be back in school, which means some teachers are back in school and parents are getting back into the regular routine. School starting also signifies that it is nearing the time to start planting your fall planted flower bulbs, which are going to come up and bloom in spring. So we are nearing that fun time of the year for us. It's a really fun time of the year for us here because we have so many popular fall bulbs like tulips and daffodils that you want to start planting after mid-September. But today I am going to talk to you about one of the first bulbs for fall planting that you can and should plant, and that is the bearded iris. So we got these in last week, and our crews have been working really hard to get them packed, ready for shipping. So we're going to start shipping out bearded iris orders later this week and early next week. So if you love bearded iris, or there's something you want to plant in your garden, now is the time to order them, and now is the time to plant them. So if you don't know much about bearded iris, I'm going to give you the basics of planting, my favorite color combinations, and then also just some care tips for after, or for people who have bearded iris in their garden already and they want to have the best bearded iris possible. So let's start with the planting tips. First, before I get into all the details, I want to show you, if you order bearded iris from us at Holland Bulb Farms, this is how your iris is going to arrive. It's in a mesh bag, which is good for airflow and ventilation to make sure that the leaves that are remaining, that they do get airflow. And also, it's got the basic information you need for planting. So if you forget everything I say here today on this video about planting, when you order your bearded iris, the card is here with the information that you need. So it has the planting depth, the planting spacing, the amount of sun it needs, and then on the back there's even a planting guide with diagram. So we got you covered as far as how to plant these when they arrive, but I'm going to cover some of the basics today, so even if you forget, we got the information for you. So bearded iris are a full sun perennial bulb. So full sun plants generally need 8 hours a day of sun. So if you have less than that, they might grow in that area, but they're probably not going to flower, and they're not going to perform the way you want. So when you're plotting out your garden area for the bearded iris, you want to make sure that it has at least 8 hours of full sun throughout the daytime hours. The next biggest thing with planting bearded iris that's even more important than the sun is the soil. So bearded iris have a tendency to rot over winter if they are planted in poorly drained soils. So if you have a suspicion that your soil doesn't drain well, or that you have really thick, heavy clay soil that water pools in, so anywhere in your yard that you have water pooling after a heavy rain, that is an area that if you want to plant bearded iris there, you certainly can, but you're going to need to amend the planting area with compost and manure, or peat humus, or plant starter mix, anything to increase the drainage in the planting area. So well-draining soil is very important for bearded iris, and full sun is also very important. As far as the spacing goes, this is another thing that I feel like is very important to planting, is you want to space them at least 12 to 18 inches apart, and that is going to depend on the variety. So on the label, it'll tell you what the spacing is, like a smaller, like a dwarf bearded iris, or an intermediate, like medium-sized bearded iris can generally be spaced a little bit closer together, but your standard tall bearded iris, you're going to want to give them that like 12 to 18 inches spacing. If you space them too close together, you're going to end up having to divide them a lot sooner than you normally would. So yes, full sun, well-draining soil, and spacing is important. And then I know I said that the soil is being well-drained is really important, but I actually think that I would change my mind on what the most important thing is, and the most important thing is going to be the planting depth. But the soil being well-draining is very important. So when you get your bearded iris and you're getting ready to plant it, just imagine that this is the ground that I'm planting in and not a pot, because I wouldn't really suggest planting bearded iris in a pot. I'm just using it for the example to show you the proper planting depth, because this is one bulb that is very sensitive to planting depth. So when you get your bearded iris, you're going to take it out of the package. They shouldn't all have tags, but some of them might have tags on them with the variety name. But so you can see these are the leaves from this year's growth that were cut back by our grower. And then over the course of the next several weeks, this bulb is in dormancy and preparing for dormancy. So the leaves that are green now are going to eventually turn brown. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's completely normal part of the process. What is most important is this bottom part of the plant, which is the rhizome. Rhizomes are a type of bulb. And this rhizome is where the bulb stores all of its energy. This is the best indication of how healthy a plant is. So a solid rhizome that, it's not squishy, it's not dry, it just is nice and firm. That's a really good indication. These are, this past season's roots. Once it's planted and starts to grow, it's going to put on new roots. So this is another healthy sign, and you can just leave these roots here. You don't need to worry about doing anything when you plant them. But like I said, bearded iris are very susceptible to planting depth. If they are planted too deep, they will either have a tendency to not grow, but if they do grow and they're planted too deep, they have a tendency to not produce flowers. So, which would mean you would have to lift them and replant them, the next year when you realize that that might be the issue. So it's really important that they're not planted too deep. And the planting depth of bearded iris is typically 1 to 2 inches deep. So imagine if this was the ground and not a pot, and I'm planting, so I want to spread out these roots, even though they're last year's roots, as much as possible. So if I had my planting hole that I was that I had dug that I was planting in, so I would place it like this, so somewhat on its side, and then I'm gonna cover the roots and the bottom portion of the rhizome with soil. But I want to make sure that I leave at least close to 50% of the rhizome exposed, above ground. So I know that might seem improper, like, oh, well, shouldn't the whole bulb be buried? Like most things, tulip is 6 to 8 inches deep. Mostly everything else as far as when it comes to bulbs that you're planting, you are burying the whole thing. Well, with bearded iris, it's important that you leave part of the rhizome showing. So you wouldn't want to plant, like if I had the soil up here, that would be too deep. It would probably rot or, bare minimum, not flower. If I buried the whole thing, it would definitely not grow. So you do not want to bury the whole thing. You want to plant it so that you can see part of the rhizome, which is this tan part here. You can mulch around the base of it. Mulching is totally fine. But just make sure that you don't have too much mulch covering that top part of the rhizome. So I would probably mulch, leaving, I don't know, at least like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch separation from the rhizome into where your mulch is. So proper planting depth, just 1 to 2 inches deep. So really important to have full sun, soil that drains well, and proper planting depth. So if you have those 3 things, they are very easy to grow and pretty much are going to take care of themselves. So those are the planting tips I have for you. And now that we have talked about the planting tips and you're ready to plant and you're going to go onto the Holland Bulb Farms website and maybe pick out some iris, I have some of my top 5 favorite color combinations of bearded iris. So one of the best things about bearded iris is the assortment of colors that they come in. So it's not just that they come in like 2-tone colors where you'll see like, you can see at least 2 colors in a bloom, but I mean sometimes I feel like you can see more than 2 colors in a bloom, but they also come in nearly every color of the rainbow. So true blues, dark purples, so dark that the buds look black, very, very dark, rich colors, bronze colors, just flower colors you don't normally see in plants. So it's really exciting to play around with bearded iris and all the different color combinations you can create. So let's start my top 5 favorite bearded iris color countdown, color combination countdown. It's kind of hard to say, but let's get it started here. So the first combination I love we actually sell this as a collection on Holland Bulb Farms, but it is what the collection is called is Plum Kissed, and that is because the purple bearded iris in the collection is called Plum Fun, and the white bearded iris in the collection is called Gold Kissed. So I really like how the Gold Kissed has some yellow near the beard and even streaks of purple that really play off the purple blooms. So the contrasting colors, having like the rich purple with the white and yellow, I think it's such a great combination. I would, planting this, would probably plant, a few more of the purple and then have the Gold Kissed in front of them. So I'd probably do like 5 and 3 for a grouping. But I just love this combination. So, like I said, we even have it as a collection, so it's called the Plum Kissed Bearded Iris Collection. It's my first. These are in no particular order necessarily. They're just my top 5. So my next one is kind of similar, but a little bit different. So this is Anvil of Darkness and Immortality. So it's kind of like that whole principle of dark and light together. The real deep dark purple blooms, and actually when these are before the buds open, the buds when they're really tight and everything, they look black. They look like a black marker. It's so cool. And then when they open, they're this real dark, rich purple color, very dramatic. The Immortality is a pure white. I love using white flowers in the garden. I feel like they're punctuation marks in the garden. They stand out at night. Another bonus about Immortality is it's a reblooming bearded iris, meaning that it's going to bloom once in June and then it's going to put on another show in the end of fall. So this combination, I just love the dark and the light together. You can even, you could add like a yellow or a pink in too if you wanted to, or like a different perennial that flowers in a light pink in the foreground, have another color combination. So that's my next one, Anvil of Darkness and Immortality. All right, this combination I think is great if your color scheme, if you have a ton of warm colors in your garden, like if you have a lot of black-eyed Susans, maybe some blanket flower, maybe some daylilies in the yellow and red color scheme. So if you like to play with warm colors, this combination, which is Bold Look, War Chief, and Avalon Sunset. Yes, Avalon Sunset. So this combination is really nice. Warm colors make gardens appear smaller. So if you need your space to appear smaller because it's kind of a big, massive open area and you want to tone it down a little bit, adding this, warm color combination is great there. Oh, we have a question from
Mary. Do you have any 2-colored dark irises in a dark and light color?
I do. Thanks, Mary, for the question, first of all. Oh, the question, sorry. Mary asked if we had any two-toned bearded iris in a dark and a light color. I know we have Country Charm, which is yellow and purple. I don't know that we have like a black and white. So I do think there are some two-toned, and we used to sell one called It's No Secret, but I think that one is not available to us anymore. But I would say Country Charm would be a good option for that. And this black beard that I'm going to show you might kind of appeal to you because the beard is really dark on it. But if you want to send us an email or just send us a message on Facebook and let us know what specific colors you're looking for, Mary, like if you're looking for 2 specific colors, we can look into our inventory and see if we do have anything that meets your specific colors. It's kind of hard because because bearded iris come in so many different color schemes. It's kind of hard to know exactly what you're looking for, but if you send us a message or just comment with specific colors, we can look into it and see what we have to offer. And if it's something we don't have now, it's definitely something we can look into adding in the future. We're always adding new stuff, and if there's things that our customers are looking for, that makes it even better for us to add. So that is a great question. I think we have over like 20 different colors of bearded iris. So hopefully we have something for you, but send us a message. So thanks, great question, Mary. So this bold color scheme, I kind of like if, this matches your garden, you have a lot of bold colors and you want to make your space appear a little bit smaller. So my next one is probably my favorite one. That's because purple is my favorite color. And so I said, I would love a spot in my garden with bearded iris that have a variety of shades of purple. So, on this sheet you can see they're all different. These two are a little bit similar, but we have Full of Magic, which is a two-tone. So I don't know if this is what Mary was looking for, but it is a purple and an orange. We have Berry Fulfilling, Standing Proud, Plum Fun, and then this bottom one is Mean Streak, which I think these ones with the streaks and stripes, they almost look tie-dye, are really cool. So this one I'm a bit biased on because of my love for the color purple so much. But I know there are a lot of gardeners out there who love purple. It's so fun to play with, and the amount of different tones in the purple range are really fun with bearded iris. You could even add the Anvil of Darkness, the really dark purple one, into this too. I think that would look really great. So that's probably my actual favorite, is this combination, but that's because I like purple so much. And the last combination I'm going to talk about, this one is really popular. It's been really popular with our customers for a long time. And it's because blue flowers in nature, true blue flowers, are only seen in a few perennials and bulbs out there. So it's really hard to get like a true blue color. But bearded iris are one of the best flowering plants for true blue color. So my last combination is Blueberry Bliss Blackbeard, which is the one that I said Mary might like because it is a really light blue, but then the beard is dark. I know it's not really quite two-tone, but this Stairway to Heaven is a true pale blue. And then the last one in the blue combination is Victoria Falls. And Victoria Falls is another reblooming variety, so it's going to bloom in June and then again in fall. So if you are trying to add some true blue to your garden, I would definitely buy some bearded iris. They are some of the most phenomenal, amazing blue flowers that you're going to find out there. So those are my top 5 favorite combinations. I hope you have enjoyed listening to these top combinations to, find some inspiration for your garden. And the last thing I want to tell you guys about is the care of bearded iris. So like I said, they're pretty easy to care for once you have them planted in the right area. But something that's really important in fall is to clean up all the debris around the bearded iris you have planted, to clean up the leaf litter, anything around them. This is going to help to prevent diseases and insects like iris borer, which is probably the biggest pest of bearded iris. But if you prevent that from happening by doing a really good cleanup in fall, that's really important to the bearded iris. And then the other thing that is important to know about the care of bearded iris, like I said, they're pretty easy to care for, but they have a tendency to stop blooming after a few years. So I would say at least 5 years is when you might start seeing this happen. If you notice, I've had these bearded iris planted for 5 years and now they're not blooming, or they're just not blooming as much as they used to. It's probably because they need to be divided. So they now have overcrowded themselves, or they were planted too close together. So when that happens, you want to dig up the whole clump and then divide them. And you can actually do that this time of year. You can do that as early as like mid to end of July. And then, as late as into the season as, probably like October-ish, depending on where you're located. But you want to dig up the whole clump and then divide it out into other pieces and either plant it out into your garden or share with your friends and neighbors. Those are the basic, the main care tips for them. Some other things to note is that they make wonderful cut flowers, and the most important thing about planting right now is that right now is the time to plant. So you want to plant about 6 weeks before your ground freezes for the winter. So that's going to depend on where you're located, but the best time to plant is starting now through, September and October. So bearded iris are definitely on our mind here, and I hope they're on your mind now that you have a little bit more information about them, about how to plant them, and favorite color combinations. So thanks for tuning in, and if you have any additional questions, leave a comment or send us a message, and we are happy to help you. All right, bye.